I am John Mark McMillan. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, in the southern United States. I think worship is a communal thing because people have got to express and give a voice to the things they think are great. That's what we do. There's nobody who doesn't do that. You know, we all do it in our own way, and music is a major way we do that. We give a voice to the things that are important to us, and so as a worshiping people, you know, as believers, it's just natural that we would do that together, share what we love with one another. You know, it's what we do as human beings, you know. I think anyone who's a good artist is a worship leader in any genre. There's this cultural idea of worship with what people are willing to accept in a service or in sort of a modern sort of idea of what worship is, you know. I think theological or biblical expression of worship, which incorporates a lot broader group of things, you know, I'm definitely a worship leader. I think anyone who's a good artist is a worship leader in any genre. It's difficult because as a worship leader, you're in a place of visibility, you know, and it's easier to lead from a place of visibility, but it's actually probably better to lead from a place of not visibility. I think there's a lot of different things we could talk about what it means to be a leader. Unfortunately, people tend to see things like confidence as being more important than character, you know, and that's why a lot of times people will follow leaders who aren't great people, and because they get confused as to who a great leader is. And this is just across the board, not with worship leading or just in spiritual stuff, you know. But people tend to follow someone with confidence, even if that person is taking them confidently to a very negative place. And the interesting thing about being a worship leader is you can be a good singer, you can be a good songwriter, you can be good at expressing things, but not be a very developed person. And so you have this a lot, and I'm speaking from experience. I'm not speaking about people I know. I'm talking about myself when I say, you know, I wrote some songs when I was very young that impacted people, and I think for good, you know, for the better, you know, but I didn't know who I was. And people started asking me important questions because they liked the songs. And I don't think that the songs weren't good or that the songs were taking them somewhere bad, but they started asking me questions, and because of the songs, they want to hear what I have to say about other things when I wasn't very developed and I was pretty immature. I guess what I'm saying is people can look at your gift and think that your gift makes you a good leader. The truth is it's just a good gift. The two are not necessarily connected. Now, I think there is a responsibility, if you have a gift, to use it in a responsible way and to mature and use your platform for good. But the gift doesn't mean necessarily that you are a great leader. It just means that people are willing to follow you somewhere. So I don't know that answers the question about anonymity or not. I think, truthfully, if you really come to a place of humility within yourself, you can be one or the other and it doesn't matter. So I think really for me, that's where I'm coming to, where early on I used to get very uncomfortable being in front of people and talking to people, you know, and so I would, through a false humility, I would dodge those situations when really the truth was I was just afraid. And now I find myself in front of a lot of people, and your identity can get connected to the people who are looking at you, and when that's not there anymore, you question who you are. So I think really the ultimate place to be is a place where you're comfortable with both, and you allow neither one of them to determine who you are as a person. You just serve, and if you end up in a place of visibility, great. If you end up in not a place of visibility, that's great too. It is very hard, especially as it's easier as I get older, but I realize more and more how much my identity is connected to what people think in the public. You know, like I'd like to say it's not, and I used to think it wasn't, you know, but as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that actually I do have issues there, just being honest, and I'm dealing with those issues. So I think I'm in a really good place as far as that's concerned, but I don't know that identity issues are ever anything that totally go away. I think we constantly deal with those and mature in those areas. Theology or melody? Okay, when you're talking about a song, I would say that I believe that melody is the king when it comes to song. And here's why. It's because ultimately melody is what connects with people and what sticks with people. So as a writer, you always want to major in the melody. Obviously, I don't want to sing wrong or bad things with a good melody, because that's not good. You know, I could have a perfect theology and a bad melody, and then no one will hear the theology. So for me, it's about the feel and about the melody first. And then obviously I want what I say to have truth and be true and be honest and authentic at the same time. But as a songwriter, I'd have to say, if I have to pick, I think melody is more important. I do believe that sometimes this drive to be functional takes away from the organic nature of worship. And I could talk about that for a long time, but I think that we forget that worship is not just formational, it's also the overflow of who you are, like in any good relationship. When you have a positive momentum, your relationships form you and you form your relationships. But if I approach any situation, for instance with my wife, if I approach her from a purely functional standpoint, she's an amazing cook, she cleans the house, she takes care of the kids. I help her in this, but she does this, and I love her. But if I approach her solely for what she offers in a functional context, even the function doesn't work very well. You know what I mean? If I only approach her as a cook, as a cleaner, as a keeper of the children, then even those things don't work very well. But if I approach her because I love her, if I approach her in the context of my desire for her as a person, then even the functional things end up working out for the better. It doesn't mean that there's not a practical aspect to life together, because there most definitely is. But if my focus is only on those practical things and not on the unpractical or the less practical, then those other things don't work very well. Those things only exist to support the functional, only exist to support the non-functional. So in worship, if you remove the non-functional from the functional, you sort of create a platform for nothing. Because that platform exists so that we can have this personal experience. So it's formational, but we are being transformed, I guess if you want to use the spiritual language, for a reason. The purpose is not transformation. Transformation is so that we can live. So my wife and I grow together so that we can live together and have a better life together. But the practical and functional aspects are not the end, they are the means to the end. So the functional is the means to the end when it gets turned around to where the music is only exists to function. You know what I'm saying? It's sort of, and that happens a lot. And I think that happens as things grow bigger and bigger. You got to feed the machine. You got to feed the thing to keep things running. And I'm not saying that in a condemning way. Like I struggle with that too. It's how do I keep my things working, but also maintain this authenticity and this realness and this passion, and let the passion drive the thing and not let the thing dictate the passion. Sarah and I will write together, but generally we'll write apart and we'll come together and show each other what we have. And so a lot of times she will write something and bring it to me and I'll just add a part to it, or I'll give her some ideas. But for the most part, I can't dictate her or tell her what to do because she's very opinionative, as am I. She wrote a song called King of My Heart, and she wrote the whole song. And I've had this part for years, the You're Never Gonna Let Me Down part. And I thought, this works perfectly with this song. And I showed it to her and she loved it. And so we took that and put it on the end. And so it brings a really cool sort of end punctuation to an amazing song that she already wrote, and the two work together really well. Or even the song, The Goodness, the chorus is everything I ever wanted, it is found in you. And that was a chorus she wrote probably 10 or 12 years ago that was just sitting around. And I was writing these verses and I was like, I need a chorus. And I thought this would be really great. And she kept acting like she was going to do something with it. She never did. So I convinced her to give that to me for that song. And so that song is a song we wrote together, even though we didn't sit in a room and write it together. Well, the other day I was driving home and I was like, I need something to get me going. And let's listen to some AC/DC. Back in Black. Guitars, man, guitars. I feel like I find God in different contexts as I grow and mature, but mostly I don't think that God is going to let me find him in the same place. I'll have a season of my life when I really find God in music, or really find God in reading or in silence, But if I make any one of those things the only way, it doesn't work. So I'm at a season of my life where I'm looking for a new place to find God. Not that I don't find God on a regular basis. Lately I've been going to the park and I've been running or walking and I feel the pleasure of the Lord in those places, and it's really neat. I'm learning to find the Lord in the context of the chaos of my life with my family. It's just this idea that family is this like pretty sweet, relaxing thing. You know, people are like, you're gonna go home and chill, you're gonna go home and rest with your family, and like, no, not at all. But I'm gonna go home and enjoy my family, and I'm learning to find God in the chaos of life because that's what it is right now.